Hi, Laos, it's Mai here. And in case you aren't familiar with me and my work, I am a woman's well-being mentor and a relationship coach. I'm very much dedicated to sisterhood and educating women, especially on all the wisdom that we should have been given as we were coming of age. And so in these series, I am having incredible interviews with women of wisdom and so much power. Each month, we focus on a new theme, and the theme for this month is connection. So please listen to this interview that I did with Tamara Brown, who is an incredible intuitive healer, where we dive into the importance of connection and practices and tools for connecting to ourselves and navigating our way through a world with a lot of digital connection, and how to connect fully with people in real life as we show up. She is incredible. So do give it a listen, and thank you so much for being here. All right. Well, welcome, Tamara. Thank you so much for being here. So
thank you.
Whoever doesn't know you, I just want to speak into a little bit about what I know about you, which is that you are a powerhouse of a woman. One of the most gifted, intuitive healers that I've met, just so connected and so grounded and so loving, and your presence, it's just the presence that you hold is just amazing. I feel like you have a whole range of offerings that you do for people, but mostly, if to just boil it down, I feel like what you do is you help people unblock and unlock all of their limitlessness so that they truly connect who they are on the inside to the possibilities of themselves, of who they are, and of the limiting beliefs and, the things that we hold in our minds so often. What's true and what isn't. So you truly help people expand and live from a point of groundedness and connectedness to self. And as a woman, it's just been so amazing to come into your space, into your presence of, another woman who's so embodied in herself and just so devoted to herself and her purpose and her path. So yeah, grounded in Bali, an American woman that just took off and settled where she felt it was where she needed to go. Always an inspiration. So these are the things that I know, but I know that there's a lot of things that you offer. But for me, this is truly who you are and how you've served me. So thank you.
Thank you. That's a beautiful description. I think I could write some of that down too.
Yeah, well, you're on my
describe myself in the future. Yeah. Thank you. That's beautiful. And I really appreciate our connection from the first moment. There's an old soul recognition there.
Yeah.
And I love that. Yeah.
So for, the conversation that I'm really wanting everybody to be able to listen to is a conversation where you share some of the things that you know about connection. Because we've discussed previously today, as well as at other times, like we're living in this world where we're so connected all the time via digital, social media and our computers and, the technical stuff. And I feel like there's an inner connection and an outer connection that's so important to address, because I feel like technical and digital connection is truly important, but the foundation for us connecting to anything else or being connected in the world is our connection to ourselves. And so as women, last month, I did an interview on the menstrual cycle. And I feel like there are so many things that are important when it comes to our, physical well-being and knowing, different things about the cycle physically, but also as a woman, there are so many things about our cycle that we're not told when it comes to connection. So I was wondering if you'd share some of your knowledge about how we can connect deeper to ourselves, maybe at different times during our cycle, or how we can put that into fruition a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with honoring the fact that we are cyclical beings. You know, as women, we're emotional and cyclical in ways that men definitely aren't, or generally aren't. You know, we flow with the moon, we flow with the tides. It's like those energies run deep through us. And the more that we can learn to flow with them and not fight them, the better our lives are. You know, I mean, I grew up in a time when we had to, you know, sort of push through, and you ignored your cycle, you took Panadol or you whatever to get through it, you know. And I think the tide has shifted a little bit where women are being much more in tune and being able to honor their flow if they're feeling a bit low energy, to really take the time to listen to the body and what does the body want and what does the psyche want. Because, for example, I mean, as I'm sure you know, when we're bleeding, it's a much more inward, intuitive, powerfully retrospective time, introspective. And the gifts that come from that, if you can actually take some of that time, and, you know, not everybody can take a couple of days off work or, you know, escape into your red tent. But if you can sort of change your workflow and give yourself breaks throughout the day, that you can even sit quietly in meditation or even and take a little rest and just start really feeling into the wisdom. Because, you know, the portal's open when you're on your moon time, and we're much more intuitive, we're much more in tune with what our true heart's desires are. A lot of times things that we've repressed throughout the rest of the month, when the hormones shift, it's like that truth comes out, you know. And people will say that it's, oh, she's on, you know, she's on her period or whatever, but a lot of times it's our truth that comes through, and it's things that we haven't been expressing through the rest of the month. And I think those hormones are a gift in that way, because it gives you the opportunity to start tapping into that power, to set your boundaries and to look at what's not working for you and to be able to express that. Yeah. So finding the space to, you know, journal if you can, make nourishing food, really listening to what the body wants and what it needs. Do you want to cuddle? Do you want to be left alone? Either way is okay. You know, there's no judgments about what you want. It's all about what you need personally. Some people, you know, just want to be held. And some people want to be completely left alone, like, get the hell away from me. And not judging that, because it's like your truth is coming out. And the more you honor that and the body's wisdom, the more it supports your overall well-being, your health, your vitality, and your intuition. Because we are always taught to just ignore that and power through, you know, just get over it. Just go to work anyway. Just still, you know, work out on the basketball team or whatever it was, you know, just, you know, act like the men and don't be perceived as weak or any of those things that society, you know, projects on us, that if we take this time and we go more inwardly, that somehow we're weak or we're lesser than, when in fact that's our true power, that's our true wisdom. And the more we can honor that in ourselves, the more that other people will honor it in us, I believe, you know. And that's how we're going to shift things. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, when it comes to that time, so you say journal, I'm thinking like, are there rituals that you'd recommend, or if there's like a certain kind of way of meditating or simply breathing that you'd help people bring their truth out, kind of, or meet their truth rather than, you know, whatever, so that, you know, like you say, it will come out, but how can you sort of embrace it and meet it in a loving way?
Well, I'm a big fan of meditating on my heart. And in the moon time, I also like to meditate on the wisdom of the womb, because the womb really, as women, it's our connection point to the female mysteries, to the blood mysteries. And she carries a lot of wisdom if you will only listen. So I would often start by just bringing my connection down into my heart, and then from there connect it down to my womb, and just asking, my womb, what do I need to know at this time? Or do you have any messages for me? Or even when you're first connecting, like, hi, what are you feeling? Because so many of us has never connected to it that it's almost like a revelation, and there can be a lot of grief. There can be all kinds of things. There could be anger, there could be rage, and just starting to connect and feel that and say, oh, I hear that, I understand that, and I love you. Because we can hold a lot of trauma there, but there's so much magic. And when you start connecting and you feel that, it's going to start coming through. If you want to, you can breathe into it. If you're feeling there's a lot of rage, there's anger coming up, or whatever it is, just notice it. Don't judge it. Don't get scared by it. Say, I hear you, I feel what you're saying, and I honor you. And just breathe through it and let it release. Because I know I was always just told to get over it, just get over it, ignore it.
I think most of us
And it
are.
was through my own journey. Yeah, exactly. So, and a lot of us, who were sexually abused, a lot of that's going to come up during our periods. And so just really holding the space for yourself in a way that nobody else can. And honoring whatever that process is. Yeah. Journaling is so good. Just anything that you can do to make a little sacred space. You can make even a menstruation altar, a candle, and some beautiful flowers, that feel appropriate for that time. It's any little thing that helps to kind of make you feel beautiful and make you feel connected in that moment. And it's very different for a lot of women. I used to really go down with my periods, like really intense, like sick, like vomiting, like full on. Yeah. So it wasn't until I really started to take more time and honor what was coming up and working through the energy that started to shift. Yeah, because it was intense, and I know it is for a lot of women. And I was always just told, well, just take medicine, go on the birth control pill, take painkillers, whatever. And it wasn't until I got into the psycho-emotional energetics of it and realized the power of it, because it is a portal. Our wombs are a portal between the divine, between the physical and the spiritual.
Yeah.
It's nothing less. And to treat it as anything less, it's almost criminal. I've truly come to believe. Yeah.
For sure. I read a book a few years ago called Vagina by Naomi. And that was such a powerful read. It wasn't about us, but it was about how via the pelvic nerve in the like within women, how our pelvic nerve connects our womanhood to our brain, so that our creativity, our joy, our expression, how we are, like in terms of our mood and our hearts and how we show up in the world, it's connected to our genitals and our womb space, which makes sense because that's where we create life. But it just goes into how we've learned about sex, that it's the same for men and women. She's like, it's criminal that it's been said that it isn't, or that it's not something that's taught, that something such as foreplay isn't part of the act, because we can't experience pleasure unless we're in a state of being surrendered, like in our, rest and restore nervous system, and we enter there through
Yeah.
these kinds of things. So she speaks about it like on a physical level of how we are connected there,
Mhm.
but also then she
Yeah.
speaks about connection in history, about why rape is
Mhm.
used as like a tool in wars that's very effective, because you ruin societies if you do that to women, and also
Yeah.
how all through history. So it's incredible that it really isn't something that we learn how to sort of
Mm.
embrace, and really that it's a sacred part, that it's not just physical, that it truly is sacred, and that it's something to be valued and nurtured and cared for deeply. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, because my own mother kind of brought me up in the paradigm of, it's a man's world and you just need to act like a man. I mean, she was a ball buster. She, made made a very successful career in banking. But it was at a time when she really had to act like a man. And so she did not value motherhood or really value women. She barely had women friends. She mostly had male friends. So it was very interesting. She was kind of, she was my early role model. And to her, like, motherhood was something you do if you can't do something else.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I took on a lot of that. Yeah.
but leading into that, I kind of want to address
Mm-hmm.
the importance of those women that we have around us, like older women, like the importance, like the things
Yeah.
in them. And can you speak into your own experience, not just with your mother, but through like
Mm-hmm.
circles of women that you're in, the importance of that kind of sisterhood, but also the importance of having older women in our lives? Like I know that you're
Mm-hmm.
like an elder, and it's incredible
Mm-hmm.
conversations with women who have more life experience that can sort of guide us through. So will you speak a little bit about your experience with this?
Yeah, well, I've been definitely feeling the pull and the desire to gather more um women around me who are a little further along on the path than I am, maybe by age or by experience or whatever it is. Because it's unusual where I live because so many people in my expat community are so much younger. Um, so I have found myself in the last number of years really craving that connection of people who are more my age or a bit older, and um, just really enjoying the embodied wisdom that comes with it and the letting go of the things that seemed so important at younger ages. It's more about just a real connection that isn't driven by maybe some of the competition that was felt when I was younger, because I grew up when women felt very competitive. And just more of a real appreciation for where we are, and how can I describe it? It's more of a grace and an acceptance in where we're going. I watch a lot of young people like trying to deny that they're even, looking maybe 40 years old, and um and just enjoying being around the women who are aging, but aging beautifully and naturally and gracefully. And it's inspiring because that's what I believe in as well. I don't want to try to pretend that I'm something that I'm not, that I'm, somehow younger or whatever that is. But seeing, the lines on my face, there's incredible stories there. There's, life hard lived and well lived, and joy and magic. And my breasts aren't perky anymore because I breastfed my son, and now I'm nearly 60. I'm not gonna look like I'm 30 anymore. And just yeah, appreciating the women that have done that and been there and gone through those cycles so many times that they have really started to embody all the wisdom that um that the feminine can bring through, because in my experience they're only getting more powerful. And I feel that for myself, that I'm only getting more powerful because it's more of a settling into your bones and a knowingness of who you are. And to be around other people that are embodying that there's something so nourishing about that. There's no more pretenses. There's no more, maybe I'm this or maybe I'm this. It's more of just a pure acceptance in your being of who you are and what you came here to do. And so there's a certain relaxing into that. And so to have that support of other women and to reflect that back to you at that stage, I found it super nourishing. Yeah.
So the connection when older women share their kind of like brings an ease or maybe an allowing of
and allowing
exactly who you are. You don't have to be any different. You don't have to pretend like you're anything. It's just about allowing yourself to be who you are.
Exactly. And it seems to be more relating just from pure essence, which I think we're all trying to get to. But it's definitely, at least for me, seems to have become a lot easier in the last number of years. I mean, I'd like to think it's possible when you're younger, but I think I just wasn't there for whatever reason. Yeah.
To connect or to allow?
To allow. I mean, I think I was connected to a certain extent, but there was always I don't know if there was a denial or a striving to be something more or something, something that I perceived was better. Yeah. Just and buying into some of the cultural projections. I mean, ironically, I used to work in advertising, and it was so interesting because we were retouching women to look a certain way, and nothing was ever good enough. These beautiful women that were paid $25,000 a day, and they weren't thin enough, they weren't perfect enough. And so that made a huge impression on me, that I thought, wow, what is this perfection and what is this that we're striving for? And I think it kind of sent me the other direction, where I wanted to really discover the essence and what is that, that God sense, and what is the felt sense of divine embodiment that maybe we're seeking in a distorted way through an ideal of physical perfection, or something that's really not attainable, at least not for most people.
It's a thing that I find when women come together in real life and in circle and in sisterhood is that we are real. When you're not meeting on the screen, there's not that sense of, you're not being retouched or airbrushed, or there's not a filter. It's just who you think about it. Previously, we had, there was like common showers once you'd gone to the gym, or, things like that. Or see many more real bodies, where I feel like there's like, because of the body shaming culture, or because of exactly what you expressed there, that you guys had top models, supermodels that you then still did airbrushing to, unattainable. That makes us ashamed of what we look like. But for me, there's such I don't know, it just feels so liberating to be around women when there's actually real bodies. And I'm not talking in yoga studios in Ubud. I mean, I love many times when I go in there and it's so zen. But a thing that I actively have to filter out is the appearance, the way that we have to wear a certain kind of active wear or express ourselves. And you never see in these studios, I feel like you see one type of person so often. It's almost like there's not an inclusivity in many of these studios, which I think lacks. I want to have that body inclusivity, and I want women to feel great about who they are. And I think that that's part of what, sisterhood can bring. And the importance of having older role models in our lives, or women with more life experience. It's that allowing, it's the wisdom that comes with it, whereas like you don't believe everything that you're being told. you get to be exactly who you are, and you are good enough just as you are. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's like that counter message to what we've been told through the media since we were, so little, like little girls, actually, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember one of the first times I really experienced that sort of counter message. It wasn't until I was pregnant with my son, and I was 43, and my midwife gave me a blessing way, and we gathered my friends, and then there were the crones who sat in one area and the maidens in the other, and we did this whole ritual. But I was so touched by the wisdom and the energy of the possibility, because I had felt really alone in the process. I wasn't, but I had perceived myself as feeling alone, and like I didn't have the guidance. And it was the process of the ritual where I felt really held by the wisdom of the crones, and got to feel like I was a bit of that continuity of the ancient lineage of women, for the first time in my life. It wasn't until I was 43 years old that I really felt that in a deep and ancient way. And I felt so humbled to be able to approach that as an initiation, because, of course, it's a profound initiation to come into being a mother, but just to experience that wisdom circle. And everyone had their part, the maidens had their part, the crones had their part, the birthing mother has her part. And it was really looking at those stages of the life cycle and honored all within one circle. I mean, it was profound and beautiful. And it made me want to create experiences like that for, many stages of life. Whether it's coming into menstruation or, all the different little initiations, and not so little, but points of initiation maybe is a better word, that we go through and maybe don't realize the profundity of, and how sacred it is. Yeah.
What do you see like that are challenges today to, women coming together and supporting one another? Because I know that I feel like women crave it. Like otherwise you wouldn't see so many people in yoga studios, and you wouldn't see so many people doing meditation, and that whole wave that's coming through. But at the same time, like there's still competition amongst women. So still we have those communities, we had those initiations, we used to have all of these things. And I feel like there's a need for it, but there's also people wanting these things to come back in a different way. But what challenges are you can you feel, can you see to that becoming reality? What obstacles are there?
Well, the interesting thing I've seen with the rise of social media is now, not only is a woman supposed to have her successful career, but now she's also supposed to be spiritual, but also it's like there's this whole sort of icon of this goddess type that, they have to look beautiful and be in these flowy dresses, and then they have to be spiritual, but then they have to be a successful businesswoman, and then maybe they're also a mother too. It's just like one more layer of a trip that's put on women. Like, you're not perfect enough unless you have a huge Instagram following and you look beautiful in this dress and you can do this yoga pose, and you're making 6 figures a year. And it's like it's one more level of this unrealistic expectation for people that in that respect I think has been damaging. And I think just the sheer influx of information and marketing from all angles has made people so overwhelmed that a lot of people feel like they can't have time for real connection anymore. It's like I've noticed my girlfriends so many times in the last few years saying, I have no bandwidth. Sorry, I'd meet you for dinner, but I have zero bandwidth. It's like I can make dinner for my kids and that's about it, And I feel like it's that sheer bombardment of not real connection that makes us just exhausted and feel like maybe we don't have the energy to actually go out in the world and engage. And I would argue that just going out in the world engaging is what's going to feed us, to give us the energy. But I get it. A lot of people are really overwhelmed. Yeah. So yeah, the need to actually plan the physical engagement, like schedule it in, because it's easy enough to keep pushing it off. And, plan a regular time with your girlfriends that you all get together, whatever it is, have tea, have margaritas, whatever it is, go dancing, or you know what I mean? But make it a regular part so that you keep that connection going, or, have a women's circle. But some people, that's too threatening for them. So just frame it more in the way of, oh, we're just going to go out for drinks, or we're going to have tea, or whatever it is, just to keep the connection out there. Because we need our girlfriends, we really do.
Yeah.
It's like, we were wired that way, to do things together. And I forget if it was you I was talking with, or somewhere I've heard this story before, but I think it was in Africa, and all the women used to go down to a river and do their laundry together. Were we talking about this?
Oh.
And it was such a, beautiful communal time where they would share all their stories, and they would all connect and sing and talk the whole time they're doing their laundry. Well, then fast forward however many years, and they had washing machines, and they started having just unprecedented levels of depression, because they were so used to this communal way of being together and sharing everything. And then they, came into this so-called improvement of the modern world, and they felt disconnected and lonely. And yeah, but I think it's a good allegory, because if we can find more of those connection points, to come together and do things like that. Not that we necessarily have to go down to the river and beat our laundry on rocks.
But it's really about them. So it's about making sure that you are connected digitally to other women, if you are, but switching off from them to actually live in the real world, and to have a circle of women amongst you, like in the physical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the power of touch, and the power of a hug. I mean, there's nothing like that. And I would argue that, it's part of what the last couple of years have been about, is to disconnect us from our hearts and our true essence, in a way. And that's what we need to stay in touch with. The touch of a hand, a kiss, a hug. It's powerful medicine.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we sometimes deny it from ourselves. I'm sorry, I'm too busy, And it's like, are you really too busy? Like, take a moment and feel into what would nourish you the most in this moment, And very often it's to take a break and spend time with those that you love, especially your female friends and relatives too. Yeah.
I mean, it takes a village, right? It's not just like, I feel like also romantically, what we've learned is that our partner needs to be our everything, right? They needs to be our therapist, our support, our lover. They need to be everything. But it's so clear and so evident that there's a space within a woman that can never be filled by a man. It's the same with, like, there's also a space in a woman that can only be filled by a lover. For sure, we can practice, rituals and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves, both financially and emotionally. But there's spaces within ourselves that need to be filled with other people, one for a lover, one for the sisterhood of women, like all of these different things. It's truly where our nourishing comes from. But in that, exactly, I think you're so right as well in what you're saying, is that there also needs to be the physical of it, because we can be connected with others digitally, but it doesn't feed you the same way. Like, it doesn't, like that kiss, that hug, that the calming of the nervous system, that's also very much, that happens in the physical. Yeah.
exactly. And it's so unrealistic the way we're taught to believe that our partner's going to fulfill everything in us. It's unhealthy for them and it's unhealthy for us. It doesn't make for realistic relationships.
No, for sure.
And yeah, that's a big one.
But I'm actually wondering, for you as a mother, having a son who's, a teenager,
Mhm.
coming into connection, um, what what do you see as the most important pieces for you to sort of pass on, like in terms of wisdom to your son when it comes to connection, both
Mm,
relation to your husband and how you relate intimately, but also when it
mhm.
comes to digital and how to be in the world, how to be connected to yourself? Like, what are the most important things that you feel that you should pass on as a mother?
Well, I think a big one would be balance, because of course we're all pulled into the digital world, and the influx of information, but finding time to really connect with the earth and be out in the world and spend time in nature, to connect with that frequency, because it's like we're with the technology, it's like we're disembodied and pulled into our heads, and we lose somewhat our connection with our essence and our hearts. So finding whatever it is that feeds you to keep you connected in your heart. And it's very individual. It could be just about anything, but take a walk or play a sport or dance or sing or make music or paint, or whatever it is that helps you to feel that connection with your soul and keeps you just not in the heady space, the sort of disembodied space of the digital realm. And they're challenged in a way that we never were. I mean, I grew up in the era of 3 television channels, so you're automatically bored after an hour or two. So that was, self-limiting. Whereas now, he can spend all day on YouTube or whatever, just finding things that interest him. So really teaching about balance and teaching about how does it feel when it comes into your field? Like, what are you consuming on all levels? Does it uplift you? Does it make you feel sick? Because I'm trying to teach him about discernment of energies and what he's bringing into his field. So he's pretty aware. I mean, he's 14. He's actually quite aware for his age. He'll come and say, I watched this video on YouTube and I don't feel well. Will you help me clear my energy? And I'm like, sure, I'll help you and I'll teach you how to do it. But to me, that's the biggest step, is to teach that discernment of what are you consuming and how does it make you feel? Because there is a lot of crap out there, but there's also a lot of good stuff. So just noticing how it affects you, because I mean their world is vastly different than mine ever was, and will be, so much as far as technology and the possibilities of being like permanently connected to the internet, whether it's through a chip or whatever. But finding ways to keep him embodied and feeling into his heart, and practices, meditations, breath work, things like that. And I'm up against where he just wants to be a normal kid. That's his thing, and I get that. I'm like, you can be a normal kid and have this awareness, and it will make your life so vastly easier. Because he's a sensitive guy. And I'm like, trust me, I struggled for years with my energetic sensitivities. If you can learn this now, your whole life will be easier, about how things affect you, and how to clear them, and how to keep grounded and connected. Yeah.
I'm also wondering because, being a 14-year-old kid, and little by little, like, very soon he's going to move into, his sexuality more, and, connecting to, we have this whole issue, I feel, with how we're teaching young people about sex and sexuality. And also, coming back to what we spoke about a little bit earlier about how our bodies and, the body shaming and the things that we're seeing on TV in terms of how we're being. So what do you feel that we should teach our kids when it comes to these things? How can we help them navigate things through, like, what real connection is and how to meet partners sexually compared to what the media are teaching in terms of porn and, how everything is appearance rather than actually two souls meeting?
Well, it's incredible because there's so little portrayal of real connection or real, I think, sharing of that sacred life force energy, and I talked to him about that I don't have an issue of you seeing sexuality, because he always says, Dad doesn't want me to watch anything with sex in it. And it's like, it's not that I don't want you to see sex, it's that I don't want you to see the way it's portrayed generally, in that that it's an energy that needs to be projected at the other, that it has to be, at this, it's always the woman hot. Like, if you count the number of times that you watch a show on Netflix and they talk about she's hot or he's hot, it just creates that shallow projection. So it's like that energy is projected at this hot person, and it's like, it's an energy that needs to be gotten rid of. I need to have sex and get rid of that energy, is kind of the feeling. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that needs to be gotten rid of, instead of, this is your birthright, this is your divine sacred energy, and it can be worked with to create anything you want, anything you want to manifest. And part of that is to share this incredible connection with another soul, if you choose. But that's not the only reason. I mean, you can work with this energy for evolution and, for your self-realization. But nobody's taught that. I mean, almost nobody, right? So I've been trying, I'm trying in my own way to discuss that with him. But of course, at this point, I'm the mother, and that's not so easy. But I had thrown around ideas of creating a curriculum for teenagers to A, relate consciously, and then B, to start teaching sacred sexuality. I mean, even to the point where I considered, having films made which show more enlightened sexuality. But that's a dicey line with teenagers, because I was thinking 14, 15, 16-year-olds, so they get some of their first learning experiences in a more positive way, and not just because they're watching some hardcore porn thing on the internet.
Yeah, I feel like it's so important to address, also because as adults, I'm 33, and I've gone and I've studied so many things, anything from yoga to healing, sort of things that you can do to clear yourself, and that's on an energetic level. I also have done stuff that comes like that, teaches us about food, and I've done so many. But still within that, I feel like you have to target certain things to learn about sexuality, and you have to target like you have to go into certain communities to learn. It's almost like it's niche areas and you have to go and learn about, sacred sexuality. And I think it's such a shame, because imagine if we had, adults, people my age, who was interested in learning about these, because they wanted to deepen not just the relationship and the connection that they have to themselves, but also to have a richer sex life, and to just have a deeper connection to all the people that are around you, to life even, right? So
exactly.
Kind of like a normalcy about this, rather than it being about, okay, let's just target teenagers. Sure, that would be amazing, if that's what we taught. It's so difficult if we don't even have their parents on board. If we could actually, this is crucial to life and to evolution and to your energy. Because the thing that I feel is that you spoke about the draining that comes from us being connected all the time, overwhelmed with all the information that we've got on social media and stuff. I feel like that kind of connection, like the energetic connection, and energetic connection that we have to ourselves, that comes from our life force, and the connection that we can have to others in that, is one of the things do to truly balance that out, to truly be like, okay, well, there's all this noise out here, but let me here alone or with you as a person. There's such a richer form of life where you don't have to discard, digital a way of living, but you certainly to cultivate that connection to yourself and to your, life force, to sort of really recharge.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the most important point right there. So finding those energetic practices and those rituals that do make you feel connected to that. And, again, it'll be different for everyone. For some people, it might be some form of ecstatic dance. And for others, it would be, breath work or certain kinds of yoga or whatever it is. But yeah, finding ways to work with that energy that are not subverting it into just this sexual energy that needs to be, I just need to get off is the feeling. Oh, I just need to get laid. It's like, no, work with that energy to bring the fullness into every experience of every moment. And, you can have heaven on earth if you work with that energy. It's incredible. And I think we're not taught that because it's too threatening. If we have all these embodied blissful beings around, we're not so easily controlled. And I think it's what we came here for. I think we came to be, fully embodied divine beings. And a lot of that is to undo the programming and manipulation and the shutting down of our divine sexual energies, because it is so much more than just sex. It is creativity and healing and passion for everything. So finding the things that excite you and bring that passion and put it into that. It's not just about, oh, I need to give this to a partner. No, it's for you. And if you want to share it with someone, then that's beautiful. But I think it was never meant to be that it was just about, oh, I'm going to give this energy to that person and then it's gone. You know what I mean? And then 2 days later, oh, I need to give this energy again. It's no, build it, enjoy it, drink it in and let it heal you. And yeah.
I'm just wondering if there's somebody listening right now who has never done any embodiment practices or who has no idea what we're talking about because they haven't sort of felt that. How would you advise them to go and feel it, or to deepen their essence in that way, or to find that connection to their true life force?
Well, I'm a big fan of certain forms of breath work, like even working with, and it's probably, I guess it sounds crazy to someone who's never done that, is like, learning to sort of breathe into and out of your yoni, your vagina. Starting to really connect with places that you haven't really felt before. So just starting by breathing deeply and feeling yourself breathe all the way down to your pelvic floor. Even that is groundbreaking for some people because they're used to just breathing into their chest and not really noticing and following the breath, but just following it down and keep breathing into your pelvic floor and really starting to feel the energy of what's held there. What story do you have to tell? How does it feel? And does it, can you energize it with the breath? I mean, just as a very, very beginning, because a lot of us never did that. I mean, I never did that till I was in my 30s, like, so that's one very basic step. But yeah, finding practices that help you to feel down into your core, into your pelvis. And for some people it could be a self-pleasuring ritual, but that isn't even necessarily, or isn't even really about having an orgasm. It's more about setting a sacred space for you to explore touch and the pleasure of just the skin, making a ritual where you take a bath and honor the body and maybe put on really lovely oil and light candles and just caressing your body and starting to feel that wholeness in the body that we don't slow down enough to feel, and start to really connect in with the heart when you're touching. And if you want, you can turn it into a self-pleasure practice, but always making it about more about connection to the touch and what comes up as you feel and caress, and just keep opening the heart as you're doing it. And again, not even about orgasm, although that could happen later, but just really caressing and nourishing, and doing it yourself for a while before you want to try it with a partner. Yeah.
Because that's my next question. So once you've done this, once you've sort of found your connection, and I kind of want to say inner light, like who you truly are, or when you during your period, if you have these moments of bringing out your truth, how do you bring that, like how can we bring our whole selves in connection to others, like when we're connecting to the world, then like how do we integrate this in all of our connections to the rest of the world?
Well, I think it's a constant, I don't want to say vigilance, but I want to say an attention to bringing it all back down into your heart, because it's always so easy to be pulled out and to be pulled out of presence. As we're driving somewhere, we forget how we got there. So making it really like a ritual to stay present, like as you're driving, naming, oh, now I'm passing the yoga barn, or now I'm passing that waterong that sells those amazing satay, or whatever it is. Just constantly checking in with your environment to keep yourself present. And then when you're actually with somebody, really watch yourself and really practice the art of listening, because so often when people are talking, our mind is thinking about what we want to say next. We're thinking about how we want to sound good, or how we want them to love us, or how we want to be accepted, instead of being really present and listening from our hearts, and holding that space for them to fully express what they want to say. And it's not easy, because we're conditioned, especially as women, that that we need to please the person, and we need to say the right thing, and we need to all those things. So just taking that moment to really deeply listen, and hold the space for whatever it is that comes up, and not try to fix, not try to even one up it, because sometimes our reaction can be, oh yeah, I understand, because this happened to me, and you go on and you tell your story. And there's a natural balance of sharing that can come up, but not a, oh, well, you think that's bad, we'll listen to this kind of thing. You know what I mean? But just to really truly listen with the heart, I think is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I think that presence, because wherever we bring our presence, our full presence, we were self-accepting, right? And again, coming back to that allowing, being unapologetic about it, holding ourselves in a way where we're expressing only when it's fully open, and where we're coming but then otherwise just conserving maybe our energy and taking in whatever feels good. I think that sounds so beautiful.
And it can be unnerving for some people when you start to engage on that level, because they're not used to it. But still holding that presence, and letting, connecting on the energetics and not just the words
or the appearance.
Yeah. Exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you, team.
My pleasure. So good to connect with you again. Yeah. I think it's really beautiful what you're doing.
Thank you. But, everything I'm wanting to do is very much about bringing all of these wise people out there that I've met on my journey, because we need more of that out there to learn about how to sort of be present with ourselves and to be more present with others, because we're so scattered. I find there are so many things that that keep pulling for our attention. So what I'm doing is only, it can only happen through people like you showing up. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Yeah, definitely my pleasure.
If I can, I just kind of want to take us out by just maybe letting our eyes, fall in, and then just taking a breath together.
Okay.
And then I just feel to say that, connection, that's our center. Connection, that's the foundation for meeting ourselves and for being in the world. And, as we've spoken about in a digital world with so much connection, sometimes all of that connection becomes overwhelming, as you say. And that means that sometimes the very best thing we can do to connect is to pull that plug and to just connect inwards instead. So I just want to thank you for daring to tune in, for daring to guide others, for showing up and just really sharing the wisdom and to helping others feel and tune in and connect when sometimes some of us have lost our way. And I just want to thank you for all the work that you do in the world. It's truly amazing. And thank you for being on this call with me. And yeah, thank you, Tamara.
Thank you. And back at you as well. You hold a beautiful space, and I really, I'm excited about your journey and what you're bringing forth. It's very inspiring. Yeah. And light years ahead of where I was at your age. No judgments, no comparisons, but but maybe just a tiny bit.
I actually feel that that's one of the things as well, like one of the magical things about, digital connection then, is that I have different opportunities than you had to connect with sacred beings like you. And sure, we touch when it comes to, meeting in physical form, but I have completely different options to so many other very, very, tuned in or very sensitive beings, because of the digital world that we live in. So it's not all overwhelm. It's also very much, an opportunity to connect to people who can help us and who can guide us if that's needed.
Yeah. And that is an important point, is finding the balance in it, because it is an amazing resource. It's an incredible resource, but just finding the balance and the positivity in that as well. Yeah.